Hello everybody, this is Jeremy Tail the Doll. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Air Creative Effects Collection 2 from Air Music Tech. Now this is a bundle that I actually owned many years ago, their Creative Effects Collection 1, when I migrated from Pro Tools over to Studio One. But I'm really happy to see that Air Music Tech has now gone ahead and updated their entire collection. It now has 40 different plugins. I mean, look at this. We have an amp sim, which is a very clean kind of a Vox style amp, channel strips, choruses, compressors, multiple different types of delays, different types of distortion and clipping, harmonic enhancements, ensemble effects, expanders, filters, gates, flangers, flavor plugins, halftime speed, fuzz walls, frequency shifters. You literally have 40 plugins that you can use. And a lot of these are classic plugins that if you're a Pro Tools user, you know that they are used inside of Pro Tools quite often. Now, because Air is very well known for making a lot of Pro Tools effects and then their own third-party effects, they're very good at low CPU usage. They're pretty much real time, almost all of them. And when you turn them all on, your CPU really does not get a big hit at all. So what I'm going to do is play this song. This is a song called Moon by my little brother David Foley. It's a demo track. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually in the middle of kind of remastering and remaking a lot of my little brother's demos. He passed away a few years ago. We're going to listen to this with no plugin processing whatsoever. And then we'll turn on all of the Air Creative Collection 2 plugins that we have on here.
To walk beneath the stars.
So very bare bones, there's nothing really going on that's very exciting. Let's turn on all these plugins, right? So this is just Air Creative Effects Collection 2 plugins. That's everything that we have here. Let's take a quick listen. I'm going to have them off and then I'll bring them all on.
Walk beneath the stars, drink Coke out of glass bottles and toast to Mars. With your universal charm, I called you my moon.
Cool, so that's a pretty drastic difference, right? So let's start off by maybe taking a look at the kick drum, and we'll just go over the processing. So because there's 40 plugins in this collection, I'm obviously not using 40 of them in this song. I only need like maybe 10 plugins for this, maybe a little more. So what I'm doing is actually using this mono audio track. I have thrown it into Superior Drummer 3, created MIDI triggers, and I'm now using ML drums to give me a kick and snare. So this is the kick channel right here. I'm going to bypass it. And this is the raw kick. Sounds good because it's a sample. But let's check it out. We have the Air channel strips. So this has a high shelf or high bell, a mid, a low mid shelf, and then a high pass filter. You have a compressor, a gate, and then an output gain. So this is going to do some general tone shaping. It's very subtle, but then we have the tube drive. Now this, look at this UI. Very simple, very modern, right? You have a drive, headroom, saturation, output. I like it. You can also resize all of the new plugins. So all of these plugins are resizable. They have a very modern UI. Things just pop in and out when you turn them on and off. I really like that. So let's turn on the tube drive. Nice and beefy, right? Bypass everything. It just adds some snap. It almost makes it sound like a rock and roll drum or a metal drum. So next is the snare drum. Now this one is a little bit different because we are using the Air Para EQ. This is their parametric EQ. It has a low and a high cut, which has a 6, 12, 18 or 24 dB octave slope. You have a very wide range for your high and low cuts, And then your low and high bands can be either shelf or bell. You have the low and high mid. You can turn off any of them just by clicking right here. Very low CPU. It has an output knob. And then we're using the air distortion. So this is different than the tube drive. All right, this is using hard, soft, and wrap distortion. We have a drive, output, mix, a tone shaping, which is pre-shaping before the saturation. We can either make it darker or brighter, have a high cut, and then make this stereo or mono. And we even have clipping and edge, which will add a little bit extra grit. So this is going to be a different style of saturation. This is straight up just distortion versus the tube style drive. And it'll sound completely different. But I really like how, look how simple this UI is. Very like, hey, this is what I do. This is how I do it. I use almost no CPU. And let's see how it sounds. All right, we're going to bypass it. That's the original snare sample. Now, I am overdoing it, but that's because I love putting this in the mix like this. I love these overdriven snares. Check this out in the mix. Check it out.
Used to walk beneath the stars.
It just has a cool color to it. Now for the overhead, I am using the Air Parametric EQ just to do some tone shaping, and then we're off to the bass guitar. Now the bass guitar has 3 different plugins. I'm using the Air Amp Sim. This is a very interesting one because it doesn't really have any type of like Marshall or Plexi or heavy metal tones. This is definitely not something you would want to use for hard rock and metal. This is a very clean, very good for shimmery tones, but also decent at just general tone shaping. You have DIs, you have different types of cabinets, and I believe I used this bass one. You can do mono or stereo. You have a drive, output, soft clip, top boost, bias, bass, mid frequency, and high frequency shelf control. And I really like using the soft clip and top boost section with the bias. I find using too much drive can be a little bit too aggressive because this is basically a clean amp sim. After that, we have the parametric EQ or the Air Para EQ. I'm doing a lot of cuts and some boosts just because I want to do some really drastic tone shaping. And then finally, we end off with the Air Maximizer. This is a really cool maximizer plugin. It's basically designed to make everything loud. And you have a hard soft knee control. You have a release control. You have a LF mono button. I'm not using this at all. We have a look ahead all the way at 20 milliseconds. I have my threshold and ceiling set. And this is basically just going to make everything loud, while the 2 EQ and amp sim combo are going to make things sound more defined. So here's the bass before. After.
We used to walk beneath the stars, drink Coke out of glass bottles and toast to Mars with your universal.
Really cool, right? It does a lot of work. Next, let's look at the guitars. So I think I'm doing a slightly different setup for each guitar. For the lead guitar, I'm using the Air Amp Sim, using the 4x12 with a drive in stereo, a little bit of soft clip, and then I'm boosting a little bit of treble, cutting a little mids, cutting a lot of bass. I'm also using the Air Channel Strip to do some tone shaping and compression, and then I'm using the Air Spring Reverb. I mean, look at this. Really simple design. I really like it. It might not have the most intricate controls, but look at this. Very simple, very low CPU, very low latency. And let's just look at before and after. Nothing wrong with this, right? This one wasn't really something that I needed to fix. It was more just I wanted to make a little bit more of a vibrant tone. So I'm using the spring reverb to kind of give it a little bit more of a width, but I'm reducing it from 100 to 91. Using maximum diffusion, using a low cut, have a mix at 37%. It's just to add a little bit more width to it. And I'm kind of tone shaping it the way I want it to be. It just sounds thicker this way. The rhythm guitar is a completely different story. I am doing a ton to this thing. So we have the Air Amp Sim 2x10 using a little bit of drive stereo mode. We're really dialing in some bias, soft clip, and top boost, and we're doing a lot more EQ after the fact because we have the Air Para EQ. I'm cutting a lot of lows, cutting some highs, cutting a ton of high mid, and then doing a little bit of a boost and mostly some cuts in the low and low mids. Mostly because this kind of sounds harsh. Let's bypass everything. Now I get the tone we're going for. This was definitely supposed to be a lush, clean guitar with some chorus and some delay and reverb going on. It definitely has that vibe of trying to have like this kind of a vibrato-y kind of sound, but it's a little harsh and thin, especially in the track. So we're going to warm it up and shape it by using this setup. So let's take a listen. So this adds a little shimmer, it kind of adds a little bottom, and then we kind of get rid of the unwanted frequencies here. And if I stop right there, that would automatically be a lot better. But I wanted to use the Air Multi-Chorus. This is a plugin that I've used in the Effects Collection 1, I believe. I used to love their chorus. I'm going to use 6 voices, a depth of 8.27 milliseconds, a rate of 0.46 hertz, and a 41% mix, using a little bit of low cut, max width, and I'm using a triangle wave. So check this out. Then paired with the channel strip, let's bypass everything. Suddenly when you bypass everything, you hear this like nasaliness, this harshness, this thin twanginess that's not a good thing, but you also still hear that like where it wanted to have this lush kind of chorused out sound. And we just bring it in, and it sounds fantastic. Next we have the synthesizer. Now this is just like a little cheap synthesizer. For this I'm not really doing much. I'm just using some spring reverb and a Para EQ. I'm just warming it up. And then we have the vocal bus. Now this is where basically all the vocal processing is going on. For this we're using a lot. So let's bypass everything.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon. I'll be a butterfly soon.
So what we're going to do is bring in the EQ.
You gave me a big bruise.
Just kind of smooths out the frequency content. And then I'm going to use some aggressive kind of compression to make everything sound a little bit more compact.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon.
And the next big secret is I love their diffusion delay. I'm assuming this is diffusion delay, but this is the Air Diff delay. It's a lot different than their normal delay. If we just grab the Air delay.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon.
Sounds really good, really warm. But check out this compared to it.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon. I'll be a butterfly soon. I'll float away.
It almost kind of gives you that like oil can style delay. I really like it. It kind of has this vintage vibe. So I use this.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like...
And then after that, I paired it with the Air Non-Linear Reverb because I actually really like that non-lin tone. Let's bypass the delay.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon.
Added with the delay.
I'll be a butterfly soon.
And then I smooth it out again with the parametric EQ.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon. I'll be a butterfly soon.
And there you go. That's the whole mix. So let's actually just bring everything in. We'll select everything and I'll bypass the entire collection of plugins. And let's just bring these up so we can see them all on. And let's take a listen.
You gave me a big bruise. Sort of feel like a hardening cocoon. I'll be a butterfly soon. I'll float away under a big full moon. We danced and slept in the same.
And there you go. That's how you can use just the Air Creative Effects collection to do an entire mix. Now, this is a very basic mix, and this is a very lo-fi mix that we're kind of making it have this like a vintage indie vibe. And that's actually kind of the vibe that my little brother was going for when he was writing these songs. We were going to record them using some of my like more boutique microphones to give everything like an indie lo-fi sound. So I think this did a great way of capturing the initial essence of what was intended. I really like these plugins. I think they have a great tonal palette because they're so flexible with such a simple design, and they have a very low CPU. Now, that doesn't mean that all the Air plugins are simple, because you can use something like the Delay Pro, which comes with the FX Collection 2. And this thing is extremely complex, extremely like customizable, and has so many options, but it's still laid out very, very well. And it, again, uses very little CPU. It's just a very complex delay. And I thought that deserves its own video on how to use that plugin. Anyway, that's it for this video. This is Jeremy Mateo with the DAW. Hope you enjoyed. I will have a link down below. It is an affiliate link. I do really like this plugin bundle, and like I said before, I've actually used the Air Creative Effects Collection 1 for many years. I'm really glad to see that Air Music Tech is updating everything, because, I mean, look at these. Great UIs, really simple, very modern. Anyway, that's it for this video. This is Jeremy Mateo with the DAW. I will see you guys next time. Bye.